We come to item number 9 now, which is the adoption of the revenue and financing policy. You'll be aware, councillors, that those changes, the changes to our revenue and financing policy, were consulted on back in February, March, alongside the consultation on the annual budget. Basically, this does 4 things. We adopt the new funding principle, which is required by the Local Government Act, section 102, subsection 3A, that we take the principles set out in the preamble to the Te Ture Whenua Māori Act into account when making funding decisions which specifically impact Māori landowners. This does include the new climate action targeted rate and the services to be funded by the targeted rate table. It updates the groups of activities table to include solid waste services activity, which was inadvertently left out, and it removes some outdated references in the policy. So it's a pretty mechanical set of recommendations or recommendation that we adopt the new revenue and financing policy with those changes which I've just outlined to save officials probably having to make the intervention. So I'll take any questions on this policy. I'll take any comments on this policy. If not, I'll put the recommendations on the voices. Or,
you need to move
sorry,
it,
I need to move it. Yeah, I will move it. And Councillor Simpson, who was about to remind me to do that, will second it. Thank you. And I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 To the contrary, no.
No.
I declare that carried. Item number 10 meets the legislative requirement to set rates in accordance with the provisions of our long-term plan and the funding impact statement for this year. I'll just comment in passing that it's noteworthy that our rates are still under 40% of our total revenue, notwithstanding the hit that we took on other revenue sources. Recommendation A is the main recommendation. It sets out rates, including a range of targeted rates, some of them quite small and localised, and provides the usual requirements for penalties for late payment, and recommendation B sets out discounts for the early payment of rates. So again, it's open for any councillor to call a division. If a division is not called for, I'll take the vote as a whole with the normal provision that people can register their opposition to any specific rate. And if that's the path that councillors decide to take, I'll just ask people to identify which clause they object to following the taking of the vote. But I will take a division if that is called for. I'll move this and ask the Deputy Mayor, Bill Cashmore, to second it. And first of all, if there are any questions, are there any comments?
Your Worship, I chose to speak on the earlier matter. The only thing, and I ran out of time, the only thing that I would say, and it probably follows on from my earlier comments, and you might say it's not directly referencing this, but the savings have been really important and justify why there has been amalgamation. But in this particular budget, I'm still a little perplexed as to those savings that we're extolling, and I do acknowledge Stephen Town because a lot of this work started under his watch, and I really do acknowledge Jim Staybeck. But how much of the savings that we're talking about, which has been an important component of pulling together the rate setting, is actually deferral? So, you know, again, is this going to be one of those issues that will come back to haunt an incoming council? Or can we genuinely stand behind all those press statements we've seen of how many savings we've made for this year within this budget? I don't know. I just think it's going to be a big challenge for the incoming council to look perhaps with a fresh sheet of paper and to go back to basics, to go back to looking at the balance sheet of council and and really being quite aggressive as to how we target this, because the world economy doesn't look flash in the short term.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any further comments? Maybe then, if I just speak very briefly and reply to the question raised by Councillor Fletcher. The savings are real, but they involve, in some respects, something that might be deferred. But to give you an example of a real saving, we had a long debate about, given that we have amalgamation, whether we needed all of the floor space from the old legacy council. So we had 12 offices around the region, and some councillors, you know, fairly from their perspective, didn't want to dispose of any of those properties. But we found out at a recent meeting that we're now using 50% of the floor space that we had from the legacy councils. And the result of that and the disposing of properties meant that we made a saving for the coming 10 years of 180 million in what we would have otherwise have had to have put into to maintenance and renewals. 180 million. We've seen savings that we've made in the way in which we store our data. Trying to remember what that was. It was about $12 million, looking at the Chief Executive, who nods approvingly. There are a whole series of things that we've saved money on, and it makes a whole lot of sense in our procurement by procuring things as a group where that's possible rather than individually. The money, the 2.4 billion in savings is not my figure. That's the savings that officers have since 2010, correctly. They're savings that they say are real savings that we have made cumulatively because of the changes that we've made. And I think just the other thing I'll say, it's always easier to spend than to raise revenue. But sometimes we as a council have to look at what, before we spend new money on new things, whether the money we're spending on things that we've done in the past are still appropriate. And if we're not prepared to say, actually, we've got to cut back on things that are no longer priorities, that are no longer important for us, then we're not doing our job. If we just put it onto rates, we're not doing our job. So, you know, we had the disposal of AIMS as a contract service that we were providing, but not very effectively because we needed to invest tens of millions more into capital equipment. And we made those savings recently. Own Your Own Home is now in the public arena, so I can speak to that. Yeah, look, we could continue to spend a huge amount of money on repair work to houses that there are no demand for, because of the 150 houses, you know, over 50 of them are sitting vacant. That doesn't make sense to me. It might have been a good policy at the time, but it's now past its time. So this council, in the past, in this budget, and future councils will have to look at how you can find savings by reprioritising. And sometimes you've got to have the guts to make the hard decisions. Yeah, look, somebody might not like the fact that we withdraw from this service, but this service is no longer fit for purpose and it's no longer a priority for us. The alternative is simply to keep doing things that you probably shouldn't be doing and load that onto the ratepayer. That's not my chosen choice. So I will now put the recommendations. I haven't had a request for a division, so I presume I'll do it on the basis that we have done it in the past. We'll put it on the voices, and if you would like to record your vote against any particular subclause, predominantly in A, I think it is, there's 25 of them, please indicate after the vote. So those in favour of the recommendations for item 10, please say aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay,
Aye.
I'll take it through the three steps. Those against
Against.
and those abstaining.
Against.
Sorry.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to record if your vote is against the thing as a whole, which people would like to have their vote recorded. So if you can please identify your name and whether you're voting against the whole lot or a particular clause. Maybe starting with you, Councillor Fletcher.
I'm against the construct of the overall budget, so I'll just let it be an against.
Against. I heard an abstention from Councillor Mulholland, I think. Is that correct, Councillor?
Sorry, that was against.
Oh, that's against. Okay. I think I heard an against from Councillor Watson and Councillor Walker, if that's correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, sorry, and Councillor Watson.
Against A2, Mr Mayor, Councillor Watson.
A2, that's Councillor Watson.
A Roman numeral.
Yep. I just like.
Mr Mayor.
Sorry. If we can do this in an orderly way and just one at a time. So, Councillor Walker.
I'm happy to actually email in the specific things that I'm against, if that's okay.
No, I'm sorry, Councillor. We do need it now.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll just come back to it then. I just need to go to Nexus to look it up.
Okay. I'll put you just on hold for a moment, and I think I had a call from Councillor Darby.
Oh, it's okay. And
sorry, that's Councillor Stewart against.
yes, against, and I think Christine might have her speaker on. I'm not sure.
No, she isn't, because she's in the room. But somebody's got their speaker on, and I hear
somebody with a baby.
Yeah, somebody's looking after the baby. That's fine. I'm glad you're able to do that, but please put your mic off. Is there anybody? I'm still waiting for Councillor Walker, but is there anybody else that wants to record a vote against?
I just indicated, sorry, Councillor Sayers, Worship, I've just indicated in the chat that I'll be against.
Against the whole, thank you. Councillor Walker, can I come back to you?
Sure. I'm having difficulty with my computer. I know that I want to vote against A6. That's the waste. I want to vote against the Te Puna Munga budget. If that's there, I'm just trying to find it. I'm having real problems with my computer. On Nexus.
Okay, if you tell us what the thing is that you're against, maybe we can help you. So it's A6, the waste management targeted rate. Is there any other specific item that you wanted to vote against, Councillor?
Yes, the Te Puna Munga expenditure.
I'm not sure that is included in this. It isn't. So you won't be able to do that in this section.
Okay, and I think A2.
A2, the general rate, the 3.5%.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else, Councillor? That's a lot.
That's all I can place at this point.
Thank you. Speak now or forever hold your peace. And Councillor Stewart, I just wanted to be clear whether you're voting against a specific clause or the whole section.
The whole section.
The whole section. Okay, that's fine. I think I've included everybody now. Just want to pause because it's an important vote and I don't want to misrepresent anybody's view on it. Okay, that's fine. The vote is carried, and those who have voted against the whole vote are recorded, and those who have voted against particular sections are recorded. But the overall vote is very clearly in favour. Right, we come now to item number 11, the last item today, the rates remission and postponement correction for the omission in the adopted policy. This policy relates to postponement of rates because of the impact of COVID on individuals that were affected by it, and through an administrative error that was not incorporated in Clause B of the governing body resolution on the 7th of June. Well, applications for postponement have closed at the end of December last year. By adopting the policy, it means that it can be brought into effect if required by a future COVID event without the need to go out to public consultation in order to reintroduce it. That would cause obviously delay and extra cost. So it's there as a contingency should we need it. I think that's, is that an accurate summary? I'll just ask Andrew Duncan to confirm that, please.
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct. Right, I will move it. I'll ask Deputy Mayor Cashmore to second it, and now we'll move to questions. I'll move now to comments, if there are any comments. If not, it's all pretty clear, I think. So I'll put that on the voices. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
To the contrary, no. I declare that carried. There is no item of extraordinary business. So with that, can I thank councillors for their participation today? Can I thank our officers for all of the officers that were involved in you. I think most of us have no idea of how many hours are invested in doing this job to get it right and to get the balance right and to do what we are requiring of our professional staff. So a particular, it's my last thank you for a budget, a particular big thank you for the professionalism and the competency and the commitment of all of our staff. And for those that aren't in the room but have groups of sections to go back to, please convey my thanks to everybody that's been involved with that. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I declare this meeting closed, and there is a workshop, Councillor Hills, at 1:45 in relation to kauri dieback. Okay, thank you very much. Ka kite anō mā te wā.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Bill.